Welcome back inside the Verge Studios. It's another episode of Pardon Our Promotion. How you doing today, Bob?
I'm doing just as good as the last podcast.
Yeah,
that's always your opening question.
Yeah, I know.
You have to change your opening question to what's the temperature outside or something.
I'm not good with the camera. The camera just messes with me. Puts me in a different spot.
Now everyone's going to go back to the other podcast and see if it's that same question.
I know, and they're probably going to...
They'll build our attendance and all the podcasts.
Get at least one new view for every podcast. Well, today we're going to talk about sponsorships and entertainment, specifically the activation within it, kind of also where it begins. So the genesis of the conversation, who leads it, how does the element develop, how do you build the sponsorship or the activation around the partner and what they want, and how do you also keep the entertainment in the game? Because that's a big problem, right? We see a lot of times where teams will let the partner or the sponsor dictate what the entertainment element is rather than the other way around.
Correct. And then to go back to the origin, it's a sponsor, right? So back a billion years ago, they had sponsors that sponsored sporting events. And they didn't necessarily want anything back out of it. They just were benevolent, right? And they wanted to sponsor the local sports team. Of course, now they want advertising. They want some sort of, what does a sponsor want today? They really should be called advertisers,
right.
and not sponsors, because they really want something for their money, right? So that's the first thing is teams need to understand that they need to take care of their sponsor or their partner. Sometimes their partnership activation, that kind of stuff. And so they get a bang for their buck, and it isn't just charity work for the local sports team. So that's the first piece. So what was your question? I kind of got off on that tangent.
I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that, and this is a problem that I've had with not necessarily the sponsors, but the people leading those conversations. So your sponsor folks, corporate sales, things like that, people like that who lead those conversations. It's not about advertising. It shouldn't be, at least. It should go back to the way it was, when they're a sponsor of an event, and basically that partner is telling you that they embrace the experience that you're about to have, that's their vibe too, and that's the experience they're all about as well. It's not necessarily, here's my commercial, here's my advertisement for my product, go buy it, that. We want the partner to engage in the experience with the consumer, and from that perspective, rather than just selling them on something.
It's experiential marketing.
Yeah.
It's the fact that we're tying the goodwill of the New York Yankees to the brand Geico, right? And I think Geico's still in left field out there. I could be wrong, but so there is the tie. But but it definitely has to. It definitely has to be good for everybody, right? And that's what you were talking about, is when sometimes advertisers or sponsors start driving the narrative and start driving, hey, this is how we want it done, when it isn't necessarily their call. It should not be their call, because they're not in that. Geico's really good at selling insurance, right? They shouldn't be telling the Yankees how to put a show on, right? Yeah. Yep. And so there is that, but of course you have to take care of your sponsor, you have to take care of your advertiser, but that's where it should stop. You should say, what would you like, Mr. Advertiser? What would you like, Mr. Sponsor, for our partnership? How can we help you? And how can we work together to kind of, prop up both of our brands? But that's the spot, that's the demarc line. And then from there forward, it should be, this is how we can do it, because we know how to put on a fan experience in a hockey stadium or a baseball stadium, et cetera. We know how to do that. So let us take care of your brand and nurture it correctly so you get the right effect, right?
So how would you lead those conversations, or start those conversations, or direct those conversations? If a sponsor comes up and they're interested in sponsor, a jeweler is interested in doing, their ultimate goal is to get people out to their establishment and
Right.
and notoriety and stuff. I mean, how do we start those conversations? How do we direct them so that we can come up with a really entertaining way to activate what they're looking for?
And that's an interesting thing because you said when that sponsor comes to you, but so often it's the other way around,
That's a
right?
good point, right?
And that's the thing is here's a person that works in sales for any particular club, and they're like, I gotta get to my quotas. I sell so much, and so they go to the advertiser,
Mhm.
and essentially they want to close that sale, so they start bending over a little bit in order to close that sale. So
Right.
your question is, how do you do it? Well, it's kind of you have to empathize. I think that has a lot to do with a lot of things in life, but you have to say, look at any particular brand or company out there and say what is good for them, and then actually take plans to them. Like this can help you achieve this market,
Sure, yeah.
and things like and work together again Socratically
Mhm.
to better their brand. And I guess this goes back to the old sales where you walk into a facility and say, where are you challenged? Where would you like to grow? You ask the questions and you find out through the probing questions where there's possibility for growth and help. And you really shouldn't, as a sponsorship salesperson, you really shouldn't just try to force, hey, you got to do it this way. You got to figure out a way that's best for them.
Sure.
And when you find that way, it's going to be good for you too,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah. What are some of the, I mean,
but you're talking about a jewelry store. Maybe we go with that for a second.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, what were you going to say?
I don't know.
Those-
Yeah. Jewelry store got
Well,
me.
if we look at that example and go, okay, so if you go to the jewelry store, and I did make a definitive statement, but there are maybe a local jewelry store that really loves
Mhm.
the hockey club that's in town or the baseball club that's in town, and they do really want to. They can advertise in the radio or television, newspaper, whatever. They really want to throw some ad dollars towards the stadium because they love going there.
Yeah.
So there's still their sponsorship
Yeah.
kind of aspect to it. So it's not just all definitive. But I guess where I'm going with that is you look and go, okay, how do we best build that brand? And of course, there's those cute little promotions like the Diamond Dig
Diamond Dig, yeah,
and things
yeah.
like that. But it kind of works in the same way with the earlier podcast we were talking about in marketing and promoting. It's like, how do we get it so that this is remembered
Right.
by the fans and it maybe drives activation to their place of business? How can we do that? There's all kinds of number of ways to do that, but you got to take and go. You have to really look at their brand and say, how is it best served? And there's not a magic solution it's like covers everybody. It's really a tailor each
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah. So as as a corporate sales guy, are you going to, I would always appreciate this from a producer standpoint, but is it beneficial, to start with, hey, I'm going to go after this, this firm or this business. What are your ideas, how we could activate it potentially so that your corporate sales guy can go to them first with a whole bunch of proposals, not necessarily a dollar amount. There is a dollar amount, obviously, but as a producer, I'm not concerned with what the partner is paying really on a high level. But is that the way to start those conversations? To prevent us from having the partner lead those, we want to come to them with stuff already, right?
That is a great idea. If you're just a pure salesperson,
Yeah.
you go to the game ops director or whatever, the sponsorship activation person, and say, hey, I'm going to go see an auto dealer this afternoon. What can I take that person? Come up with the brainstorm of ideas for that particular category, right?
Mhm.
But again, when you get there, when that person steps foot in that auto dealer's office, it shouldn't be, here's all the great things that we have for you. It should be, listen first.
Yeah.
Again, those questions.
Sure.
Where are you challenged? What demographic are you not reaching? And then you dovetail what they're talking about and what their challenges are with, well, if we did this, so if you had that arsenal of stuff that maybe you brainstormed prior, you can then go, you know what? I think we could probably do this promotion here on field, and we could do this part of like maybe we could do some video board content. This that might help you, and again, maybe we can drive some people with some sort of signups, either at your facility that drive people
Data collection,
one way or the other, where people are coming to your place to get something, right?
Yeah.
And again, no clear path, but you make a valid point. If you have a nice arsenal of products, then you can start the discussion on how you can solve some of those problems for that sponsor, and get them more engaged in your facility.
I remember you talking about and while during our course of work, talking about having certain innings be the sponsored element, not necessarily the activity or the on-field event, but the general overall inning as far as, it could be a race inning, or it could be a skit inning, it could be, some type of other themed element, not necessarily the same every inning, but, they'll always get their inning love and their inning sponsorship, and the element might be different.
That's correct.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, and that goes back to what you said at the beginning, is like, we don't want advertisers or sponsors telling us how to entertain.
Right.
And so we come to them with solutions, but they need to be variable solutions. And that kind of ties into that whole make your show different every night, and so if you make a show, whether you're, again, basketball, hockey, doesn't really matter. I have to do something different in that first break of the action, whatever it is. First quarter break in basketball. It's got to be different than last time. Otherwise, our fans are going to get kind of bored. You got to have some carryover. Again, the sponsor branding and the way the element begins and ends, and we'll get deeper into that in another podcast. But the point is the element itself should surprise the audience, and if it's memorable, that's good for the sponsor.
Yeah.
That's if it's the same as yesterday, people are tuning out, and then it's not worth it to the sponsor. And as much as you can sell it, they're not may not renew because they're not getting that kind of effect back at their place of business.
Right. It's not always just, one thing that I've kind of thought about and my philosophy is it's not always about the hard numbers. It's about the feeling that we create, right? That's the most important part of how we activate the sponsorship, because it's not about, okay, if this sponsor just wants signups, it's not about, so then we're just going to try to sign up as many people as we can, or get as many people signing up, giving us their information as possible. But when we're talking about partnership activation, it's really, the feeling that we're giving people, and then they're going to then attach whatever that partner is to that feeling. And that's what we want. That's what we want to capture. That's the most important part, in my opinion.
So you're a sponsorship salesperson, and you come to my place of business. You know what? I'd love to work with your company. In fact, let's do a $25,000 sponsorship. I'd like you to play 3 commercials during the game. What are you going to tell me?
That's not entertaining at all. That's boring.
It's boring, and it's going to turn you guys. Yeah, the answer is no.
Yeah, right.
No, we can't do that.
And too many times people see $25,000. Oh, sign it.
Let's sign this, and then they go back and go, "How are we going to do this? It's going to be boring as heck." And
we just got paid $25,000 to ruin our show.
Yeah. So that's the magic word, is no.
Right.
No, we can do better.
Yeah.
You want some sort of fun video? We can make a fun video, but it's not going to be a commercial. We're not going to just play a standard commercial that you see on regular broadcast television, because that'll turn off your audience. Again, they'll tune out. You're not getting your money's worth. Okay. So it's a hard thing for a salesperson to just tell a client is, no, I don't want your money. Not unless we change something and change it and make it better for everybody.
Yeah, that's good insight. And we're not going to teach our sales guys how to sell on this episode. That's on part in our sales promotion or something. I don't know. But yeah, no is important, right?
How many dasher boards or outfield boards have you seen where the text is so tiny because the sponsor said, I need all this text.
Mm-hmm.
I need my website and my phone number and everything else on there. And then the normal fan can't read it. The sponsor can, because he knows what it looked like when he bought it in the first place. And he thinks it's great, or he or she thinks it's great, but it isn't. Yeah. It's not good for their business. So the word no works.
What are some creative ways that you've activated a sponsorship element?
Oh, that's putting me on the spot there. Well, this is 20 years ago, but when CERTA wanted to do something in Altoona, Pennsylvania, we did the CERTA sheep, and we had it as a rally sheep, because back then it was kind of the rally monkey, I think, might have been getting popular, or this could have been predating that. But we had the sheep come out during scores during the game. So everybody was excited when the sheep showed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the home team was scoring.
Yeah.
And so it came out of a hidden door in the outfield at a baseball facility, which was also quite fun because the first time it ever happened, it scared the living daylights out of the center fielder. And he went running when the sheep came out to dance. So, but that was very good because everyone, it was so popular that the audience came up with Free the Sheep T-shirts because they wanted to see their home team score. Yes. So that was a really good one. And there's a lot of them that are like that, where it drives people back. And another one that teams have used is, they use a local restaurant where people have to go to the restaurant to sign up to be a participant in the show. It could be for anything. It could be the seventh inning stretch singer or the honorary puck drop kid or whatever, but they have to go there to sign up to be part of the show.
Oh, that's cool.
So then there's a tie between ticket sales and sponsorship and partnership activation and all that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it's something that you just said with the rally sheep is you associate that with scoring, and that's another. It's another vibe or feeling, experience-based emotion that we've now tied a sponsor to or partnered to that they're going to benefit from.
Another one that I saw years ago is the Old Navy beach balls. And it was, like sometimes people bring a beach ball and blow it up and they'll throw it around in the stands. Well, Old Navy went, let's do it. So they had all these Old Navy beach balls that they would give to the stadiums, and people would, during the promotion, they would just bat them around.
Yeah.
So here's a sponsorship logo, essentially, flying around in the air above people. And they're just constantly looking at Old Navy logo as it's bouncing around the stadium. I thought that was a wonderful promotion because it was exciting, it was fun, and it got the sponsor brand out there.
So we're going to try something. I do have in my notes here that we're going to try to speed round of planning an entertainment element for a local company. But let's try it.
No.
This could be dangerous.
No.
No?
See, the word no works, doesn't it?
I see what you did there. All
right.
So we got Jiffy Lube, oil change. So we're going to Jiffy Lube or we're going to an oil change or a mechanic. Let's just make it general, an automotive place. We want to promote or propose an entertainment element to them to sponsor.
Okay.
The
first thing I'm going to go off of is Jiffy, right? So fast.
Okay. Yeah.
So fast could be part of a race. It could be part of an event where people have to do, like the clock ticking of game shows where things have to happen in a certain amount of time. So probably even that better than a race.
Yeah.
I like to use the time clock, 30-second clock or 60-second clock, where they have to do something, where it could be an active, it could be a guessing game, or it could be some sort of challenge.
Yeah.
Like what's that 60-second? There's a show. It's
Minute to Win It.
Minute to Win It. Yeah, that type of thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's genius. Jiffy, just playing off the name, doesn't have anything.
We done? We're done with this
we
podcast?
Just planned it.
Okay, good.
No, so so you can find any way to tie in to that partner to make the element relevant, I guess you could say, something fast, Jiffy. So that's a good place to start.
Added together the partnership activation. This contestant is playing for this section. This contestant's playing for this section.
Sure.
Whoever wins gets gets the coupons.
Yeah.
That whole section gets Jiffy Lube coupons or whatever for something off of. So now there's an activation to get people back to their dealership or their place of business.
The participants in the on-field element could dress up like they could get a Jiffy Lube shirt, that the partner provides, and it's more eyes on their brand and marketing.
And that's an interesting thing. There's a lot of people forget that. They put the stuff, the Jiffy Lube thing on the video board, and of course they'll have it in the PA announcement, and the host will be talking about it. But there's just the simple coloring of a promotion, or like you say, the shirts,
right,
or the logo. I can't remember where I recently saw this, but they literally had I think sandwich boards. Is that what they're called?
Mm-hmm.
A-frame sandwich boards.
Yeah.
They brought it out. And they set it out on the field right next to whatever was going on. It just said Jiffy Lube right there, right on the field, because people might not be looking at the video board or whatever.
Right.
Kind of goes back to that Old Navy thing. If you can get their brand out in front of them where they can see it or touch it, that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually a really good way to start. I mean, just incorporating any kind of branding element you can. This is just low-hanging fruit, easy ways to activate a partnership, but then playing on either their name or their logo or the services that they offer in some way. The element doesn't necessarily have to be a oil change related in Jiffy Lube's case. It can simply just be a pun off their name.
Yeah, absolutely, and just like promotions, the more you sow, the more you reap.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the guy that sells the Jiffy Lube 30-second commercial isn't sowing very much. He's just cashing a check, and we're going to play this commercial pregame or whatever.
Right.
And so the effect for the audience, the effect for the sponsor isn't that great. But the more you put into it, just like we just did with our little brainstorming, the fact that we can change it every night, the fact that we can have sometimes a hook ending where it's just really a silly ending that audiences remember. All that is putting extra effort into that promotion and into that sponsorship that benefits everybody.
Yeah.
Fans, the home team, and the client.
There's nothing worse than, having a partner tied to a specific element, a specific activation process. If that activation process isn't very good, it's counterintuitive completely for the partner. And then they're not going to come back and renew.
No, they won't.
They're going to be displeased through the season. You're going to be forced to find out another way to do it mid-season. It's going to be a disaster.
The game ops director doesn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The promo team doesn't want to do it because it's so boring or whatever. Right. It just falls flat. And you're right. And what happens? Non-renewal.
Yep.
Yeah. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about with that.
That was good, though.
But that was healthy. So if you guys have any questions, comments, or want us to talk about anything related to partnerships or unrelated to partnerships, but related to promotions, drop us a line, give us a comment, send us a message, anything. But until then, guys, it's all about your fans. We'll see you next time.
Take care.